Hello everyone, welcome to the channel, and I am here for a list video for you guys. Now for this list video, I'll be going over some albums, some recent releases that really don't hold up very well. Now when these albums came out, I really liked them, and I think a lot of people really like them as well. But over time, these albums really haven't been doing the best with replay value, and for the most part, these albums have really dropped off for a lot of people. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and begin, and we're gonna begin with Breaking Benjamin with Aurora, which is their acoustic album. And this one, I can see some people disagreeing with, of course, those who are hardcore fans. But the thing is with this album, I mean, of course, it's just an acoustic album. It's not really like a new studio album or anything, but the thing is with this album, it's just very underwhelming. I mean, for one, it's way too short. And with this album, I feel like they've really focused on their recent material a little too much on this album. And what I mean by that is most of the songs on here are either from Dark Before Dawn or Ember, instead of, the albums that came before. And the albums that came before, I think are much better, of course. But yeah, but this album, it's not all bad. I mean, it has some good stuff on it. I mean, of course, I really liked it when it came out. Some of my favorites would be Failure, which is featuring Michael Barnes from Red. I also really like Far Away. That's a good song. But yeah, Aurora, when this album came out, I really enjoyed it. But nowadays I don't really listen to it. But it's a decent album though, but it's just really not aged well. Now these next two albums I'm actually going to talk about together because they are of course from the same artist. And so next up we got Demon Hunter with War and Peace. I know that there are actually some people that will disagree with this one as well. I know that these albums do hold up fairly well for some people, but for me, not so much. I would not say that they've really held up very well for me. Now, when these albums came out, I really liked them. I mean, these albums I thought were fantastic when they came out. Of course, Demon Hunter was one of the first metal bands I ever gotten into, so my bias meter can go really high up there when it comes to Demon Hunter. And when these albums came out, I will admit, I listened to them a lot, but nowadays, I don't really return to them that much. I don't know what it is about these albums. I mean, the creativity is here. I mean, they definitely took some risks on these albums, especially on the Peace album, but I don't know what it is about these albums that just feel underwhelming. I mean, but something about these albums just don't deliver like the previous Demon Hunter albums do. Like, I'd rather listen to the Triptych and, True Defiance and Extremist even. But yeah, but War and Peace, again, like Aurora, they're not terrible albums, but the replay value is, it doesn't really have the best staying power. As for the War album, I really like the closing track, Lesser Gods. I mean, that has always been one of my favorites on the album War. On My Side is a song that I used to like. It's kind of grown off of me though. I don't really listen to it as much these days, but I thought it was a decent choice for a single. And then with the Peace album, this one does have some good stuff as well. I like Loneliness and Recuse Myself, but this album also has some of their weakest material, like Two Ways and Bet My Life. I think these are some of the worst Demon Hunter songs ever written. But yeah, War and Peace, they're decent albums. I know I've seen some people say that these are some of Demon Hunter's best albums, which I don't agree with at all. I've actually heard some people say that at least the War album, is the best thing that Demon Hunter has done since the Triptych, which I don't agree with at all. But yeah, War and Peace, they don't really hold up well for me that much. But occasionally I'll go back to a song or two from each albums, but they're not terrible, but the replay value is definitely lacking. Next up, we got Soilwork with Verkleiten. And this one definitely, I remember this one came out like very early last year, like January or something like that. But now the thing is with this album, I think the reason that this album doesn't really hold up well for me as much is because, well, to be honest, I'm not really the biggest Soilwork fan like I used to, so maybe that's just me. Maybe, you know, the album holds up well for most people, people that are still, you know, heavily into Melodeath and Soilwork and things like that. But I don't know, for me, the band doesn't really do a whole lot for me these days like they did whenever I first got into them. But the thing is with this album, again, it's not bad, but I do think that Soilwork has actually done better than this. Like the Ride Majestic, I still think is their best. But Verklighten, it's a decent album, but it has been a while since I've last returned to anything on this album. But I wouldn't say that the album is bad or anything. It's just kind of underwhelming. Now, I think everything is here. Everything you want from Soilwork is here. It has the melody, and it has really decent instrumentation, but I don't know, there's just something missing. But yeah, Verklighten by Soilwork. This album kind of dropped off for me, so I had to put it on the list. So lastly, for this list, we got In Flames with I the Mask. I will admit, there was a point where I really dig this album. Mainly when it came out, of course, last year. And I remember thinking, wow, this is way better than Battles. And yeah, I still think it is a better album than Battles. I do think that this is In Flames' best album since Sounds of a Playground Fading, but this album, for the most part, is just very underwhelming. It doesn't have that many memorable tracks, and just, it doesn't really have the best staying power overall. I mean, this album is just a little underwhelming. I mean, I don't think In Flames will ever reach the heights of their earlier material, like The Jester Race, but I the Mask, like the other albums on the list, it's not a terrible album, but yeah, the replay value is not that strong, and it does have some weak material on it, like This Is Our House, which I think is one of their worst songs. This sounds like a song that could have easily been placed on Battles, honestly. Like, it sounds like it could have been like maybe like a part 2 to The Truth or Here Until Forever or something like that from that album. But there are some good stuff on this album, I think, still. I like Voices, which is maybe my favorite song on the album. I don't know, I really like that song. Call My Name is pretty good. What else? I think Stay With Me is pretty good. Kind of different. I like it though. And the bonus track Not Alone is not too bad either. Now, is it mind-blowing? No, but it's an okay track. But for the most part, this album just doesn't really hold up well for me. But yeah, I the Mask by In Flames had to make the list. Well, there you have it, guys. That is a list of albums that have really dropped off for me. Recent albums, of course, albums from 2019 to 2020. So let me know what you guys think. Are there any recent album releases that you can think of that don't really hold up that well for you? Feel free to let me know in the comments. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Have a nice day and take care.